Welcome back to another tactical fly fisher video, everyone. I've had a lot of questions over the last 6 months or so about semi-automatic reels, which I have one here in my hands. Now, what is a semi-automatic reel? Let's address that first. Semi-automatic reels are different from the actual automatic reels that many of us might have remembered from our youth. The automatic reels that used to be on the market, you would wind up and store a spring-loaded energy in it, and then when you pull the lever, it would reel itself in based on that stored spring energy. They're not real popular anymore, but one thing that is very popular, especially in the European market, are these semi-automatic reels. Now, what is a semi-automatic reel? As the name might suggest, it doesn't wind or retrieve on its own. You have to put some energy into it, but essentially what you have is a lever that you pull on here, and then a set of gears on the inside of the reel, and that lever pulls the gears in turn and spins the reel in for you. So you can retrieve this one-handed because that sits on your rod, as we'll show you here in some of the rest of this, and you hit that lever with your hand and it'll spin the reel for you. I used to think these were pretty gimmicky. Semi-automatic reels have been really popular with the competitors from Europe for as long as I've been involved. In fact, I've seen videos going back into the 90s and early 2000s where lots of the European competitors were using semi-auto reels. But I thought, is it really that big of a difference? Does it really save that much time? Well, when I was fishing in Spain with my friend Pablo last year, the airlines lost my luggage on the way over and I didn't have any of my own equipment. And Pablo pretty much only has semi-automatic reels, so I got to borrow his equipment for the week that I was there. And I was surprised when I came back how quickly my hand went right to where that lever was supposed to be and tried to reach and grab and zip the line in. And I really quickly adapted to it and enjoyed the even if it's only a little bit of time saving, there is a time saving associated with being able to zip line in one-handed. It's just really efficient. So what are the benefits of these reels? I just went over one of them. You get a one-handed line retrieval. You don't have to come in there and reel with your left hand. You can do it all one-handed. Or as you're fighting a fish, you can come up, hit it with your left hand and it'll zip all that line in, bring it up off the water, and you avoid a lot of tangles that might happen around your feet or on your packs or sticks, whatever, with that slack line that you've got. You can also speed up moving from place to place by when you zip the line in, you can put it on the fly on the hook keeper and zip your line in, and then you just basically hold the spool with your finger, let the lever go, and it clicks into place, and you've got tension on that rig to keep your fly on the hook keeper. And along with that, when you're going to reel that line in, especially if you're fishing a micro leader, as you reel that left hand, your rod tip likes to bounce just a little bit. That little bit of bounce, if you're not careful, your rig can come back at your rod and tangle. So it does help avoid tangles, not only when you're fighting fish, but also when you're pulling that line back in and going to switch places and put your flies up on the rod on your hook keeper. Now, what are the drawbacks to semi-automatic reels? The first drawbacks on some of the lower price models, the drag is either not quite as smooth as your normal traditional disc drag reel, or you have to set that drag with an Allen key before you actually go fishing. So it has to stay set at that drag adjustment throughout your day. So most anglers that I know who fish semi-automatic reels just fish their drag a little bit light, and then if they need some extra pressure, they'll go in there and palm like you would with a click pawl reel. With the Poe reel that I use most of the time, which is sort of the top of the line semi-auto reel that's out there, it has a drag that is pretty much every bit as good as a normal disc drag reel that you can adjust on the fly just like anything else. We're also going to do a separate video on the individual models of reels that we have in the shop, but this video is just to help you recognize what a semi-automatic reel is and get familiar with the concept. Now, one other con is the line can get caught on your lever, especially if you're fishing a micro Euro leader. With a regular fly line, if you're just casting dry flies and whatnot, it's not much of a problem. But the lever here, if you are fishing a micro leader, it can wrap around and kind of half hitch on it. So as soon as you hook a fish, you might want to just glance out of the corner of your eye and make sure that it's not wrapped. But you'll know that right away anyway if you hit the lever and zip up some of the slack. In addition, some of the models of semi-auto reels don't have a traditional reel handle on the spool that you can crank with your left hand. They just have the spool that's flat, like on this model, the GMC Yodo. So these are really best, in my estimation, for dry fly fishing, because you have a thick enough line that you can still pinch between your fingers to go to land fish at the end. Or it doesn't really matter if you're landing only small fish, you can still pinch that European nymphing leader. But if you're landing a lot of big fish, pinching that thin leader between your fingers at the end of the fight when you go to net the fish can be a little bit harder when you have all that pressure. So if you're gonna fish a semi-automatic reel for Euro nymphing, I suggest you pick one of the models that has a handle already on the spool, or on the Poe reel, you can actually add a handle kit to it like I've done for my reels. And lastly, if you're unfamiliar with some of the models to begin with, the JMCs specifically, they have a spool that can be a little bit hard to remove if you don't know that the screw in the center is reverse threaded, but we'll talk about that in a separate video on the reels itself. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what a semi-automatic reel is. I really do like them. If you've read any of my blog series on the World Championship that we just came back from in Spain, I was using semi-automatic reels throughout the fishing sessions. And if you're looking for a way to save just a little bit more time, be a little bit more efficient on the water, they're definitely worth a shout. I still think there's a place for traditional reels, and so you don't need to abandon everything, but definitely they're worth investigating and seeing if you want to add to your own personal kit. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this and all the other instructional videos that we have at Tactical Fly Fisher. And then come on over to tacticalflyfisher.com, where you can pick up a semi-automatic reel or any of the other gear or fly tying equipment that you might need. Happy fishing, everyone.